Hello, everybody. I'm JackieKCooper, and my entertainment rundown for today is part two of my conversation with Karin Slaughter, author of The Silent Wife. We had such a good time with this interview that it ran a little bit longer than we expected, so we had to put it into two parts. Part one is already up on my YouTube channel. I urge you to watch that if you haven't yet. But now we're going to have part two, which is just as full of information as part one was. So without further ado, we're going to move right into my interview with Karin Slaughter. You had written the Grant County books, which were basically Sarah and Jeffrey.
Mm-hmm.
And then you moved on to the Will Trent books.
Yes.
With The Silent Wife, you returned to Grant County. Not just the physical Grant County, but the past that was in Grant County. What made you decide to do that? Because it adds such flavor to the book, because you think, oh my gosh, we've gone way past Jeffrey and Grant County, and here we are back, and it feels so good to be back.
Well, I'm glad you were happy to be back. I was. It was really fun. So, but just like to make it clear, it's 8 years before the present day.
Yes.
So Jeffrey has a case 8 years ago, and Will and Sarah have to be involved in the investigation of it in the present. And I love doing that. But it's weird because I have a handful of friends, and we all came up together at the same time. And Mark Billingham is one of them, and John Connolly. And we all, on our 20th book, decided to, have this look back at our careers and where it all started. And, I think every author, when they write a series, has one story that doesn't get told. Mm-hmm. And I had the idea for the bad person in The Silent Wife back when I was writing Grant County. I just didn't.
I wondered that.
There has to be an emotional way into the story, and I couldn't find that. I couldn't figure out, I do write very graphically about crime, but it has to be in context. You have to see the fallout from it. One thing I do in a lot of my books is I'll let the victims live, just to show as an example.
But you never know which ones.
Right.
As a reader, you're thinking, okay, she's done that in the past. She's let somebody escape. But is this person going to be the person who gets to escape? You never know, because a lot of people die.
Yeah, that's true. But, it's in many ways easier to let them die as a writer, because there's all that emotional work you have to do to write from the perspective of someone who's been the victim of a violent crime, and to visualize what their life is like now, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's an important part of my work too, is to show that lasting impact. And this story for The Silent Wife just folded together very easily for me, and I could really envision it. But there were two things I wanted to address with this book in particular. And one is, Jeffrey's a good guy. He's a police officer. He's very well-meaning. He feels great responsibility for Grant County. But he's also very hands-on when he investigates. He can rough up suspects and push people around when he's interviewing them. He's very physical. And that, I think, is very in line with post 9/11 America, right? Mm-hmm. The cops are the good guys, and we're going to, push people to the limit, and we're going to get the right result. Well, in the ensuing years, we know sometimes cops make mistakes. Sometimes they do bad things for bad reasons. Sometimes they do bad things for good reasons, and Jeffrey really walks that line. And we support him as the reader, and we support this sort of vigilante justice because we always think he's right. And so I wanted to ask the question, what if you're not sure he's right and he's done all this stuff? Mm-hmm. Is it still okay if he gets the wrong person, if there's a possibility that he got the wrong person?
Which is thrown out very early in the book of what has Jeffrey done, and then you get the layers that unfold to show, and then you make your own conclusion in effect.
Right. There's that question: was he wrong? Was he right? That's something that you keep asking yourself through the book, and so Sarah was married to this man, and she's inclined to think that he was a good guy. He is a good guy, but sometimes good guys make mistakes, and what does that look like when it's a police officer? And the other thing I wanted to do was for Will to realize that he wasn't second place for Sarah, that she chose him and that she's with him and that she's not with Jeffrey anymore. And that's something she consciously did to be with him. And we're talking around a plot point. I'm not going to get into it.
I'm trying not to give anything away
Yeah.
too. But how many Grant County Will Trent books have there been? Do you know right off
Yes,
top?
there's six. I know because the math is easy. There's even 6 Grant County, 10 Will Trents.
Oh, it's more than
Yeah.
I even thought. But I do know that you assembled and you've added to a large cast of characters, as you said, and you have kept them consistent through these books.
Mm-hmm.
That to me, that would be such hard work, is maybe changing their personality to fit a plot. But these people, I've read them all, and they have been consistent in their actions, reactions, personalities, etc. And that's just such a testament to your ability.
Well, thank you, Jackie. I feel like I know them. They feel very real to me. And they're, each new book, especially in a series, I've got to find a way to, readers who've read everything, I got to give you enough information so you remember, because you read thousands of books in between mine, right?
Right.
But not so much that I'm hitting you over the head with their history. But then I have to let new readers know who the characters are and find a way to talk about them in a new way, right? So it's a very delicate balance. But the thing I like about this one is you get to see Sarah, and she is very consistent in her personality. But when you meet her in the past, 8 years ago, she is furious at Jeffrey. And she just
Bad times, bad times.
goats him. Yeah, she goat ropes him every chance she gets and just like will not let up. And then in the present, you see her with Will, and I love that she just kind of loses it when she thinks Will is mad at her and she can't make it right immediately. And she does things that she would never have done with Jeffrey. Because I think,
It's a whole different relationship.
yeah, and that was
Entirely.
important to show because I still get letters from people who are mad about me not writing Grant County books anymore, and that's been 15 years, and
Hey,
they're still
I
writing me
remember when
letters.
you ended Grant County.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was
I
a
have
big to
never.
do.
Yeah, yeah, it was really hard to do. I feel good about it. And I think I did it for the right reasons. Crime, the thing about when you write a crime novel, you have to decide if you're going to be realistic or not, you know? And there's all kinds of in between. Like, I love this series by Eric Garcia about, the first one's called Anonymous Rex. Have you read that?
No.
And Hot and Sweaty Rex. It's a dinosaur detective, but he wears a human skin.
Okay.
So is it going to be that kind of book? Is it going to be Janet Ivanovich, which is just kind of, the same story again and again? But I read them every time there's a new one out. I read them, even though I know it's what it's going to be. It's just fun, right? Or is it going to be a Jim Patterson where, like, the chapters move really quickly and it's kind of like eating potato chips, so there are just all kinds of books in between. Lisa Gardner would be on the more serious spectrum, or, Diana Gabaldon would be on even though it's scientifically accurate, the time travel stuff, she
Yeah.
would be the others, so I feel like for me, when I ended Grant County, it was because I'm writing I chose to write realistically about crime. And the thing about crime is it affects everyone. At some point, it's going to come back on these characters that they're dealing with such bad people. And I wanted to show that. And I wanted to show how people move on from it or don't. In the case of Lena, who is still kind of screwed up.
And she was back in both past and present, which I loved. I mean, she's always fascinated me.
Yeah,
Always have.
I love Lena, but and it's funny because when I first started writing her in Grant County, people would come up and they would almost apologize for not liking her. And I would say, why would you like her? She's
Yeah.
horrible. She makes really horrible decisions and bad mistakes. She's very self-destructive. You don't have to like her, but the point is you want to know what she's going to do next, right?
And you never
And
know.
and we all know Alina in our lives, right? Who's just they're gonna I know my Lena, you could lock her in a room and she would do everything she could to figure out how to get out of that room except asking for a key.
That's
She's just gonna go
that's the
the
way.
wrong way every time. And I love writing about her because that person who means well and thinks she's right about everything, and makes horrible mistakes and then easily forgives herself. We know that kind of person.
Absolutely. I don't want to run out of time without asking you though. Grant County / Will Trent is a possible TV series, right?
Hmm.
Uh, will it be a combination of both sets of books, or just Will, or just Grant County?
I don't know because right now I think their focus is on Will. And the people who are doing it are amazing people. One of them worked on Friday Night Lights, which I love.
Loved it.
Yeah, yeah, Coach T. But I really trust what they're doing because they get the character. And the thing about Will is he's pretty prescient for our times because he's kind of sensitive and he's very conscious of other people making bad choices and why they do that. But also as a police officer, he has a very, very straight line he follows. There's stuff that's acceptable and stuff that's not, and he's not going to break the rules. And he actually investigates cops who break the rules. So, he's the kind of police officer we all think of when we think of cops being good guys, not the ones on the take and, doing dirty
Right.
stuff that you usually see on shows like The Shield and things like that. So I hope that we continue to develop it, but you never know. It's Hollywood, so
Have,
it
are,
might not
are,
work out.
are you aware of an actress named Sarah Wayne Callies?
Oh yeah, she's great. She was in The Walking Dead.
And she was also in Council of Dads, and she also
Right.
I first became aware of her in Prison Break. She was the
Oh
doctor
right.
working in the
Yeah.
prison.
Yeah. She was
I
the doctor.
see her as
Yeah.
Sarah.
Huh. That might work.
I
Yeah.
don't know the age, that they're looking, would be looking for, but I, in my mind, when I've got Sarah Wayne Callies
Huh.
being Sarah.
That's a good one. I've never thought of that.
Yeah, because you've got Toni Collette in Pieces of Her, right?
Right. Yes.
Which is
Yeah.
a remarkable achievement to get Toni. I love Toni Collette. So,
She's amazing. Did you see Unbelievable on
oh, I
Netflix?
loved Unbelievable.
She was
Caitlin Dever,
amazing.
or whatever
And
her
Merritt,
name is.
yeah,
Yeah, who is the third one?
Merritt Weaver.
Merritt Weaver,
Yeah,
who I
she's
love from
amazing.
Nurse Jackie.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But when
So
I
I'm
saw
looking
that Toni
forward to that.
Collette was going to do Pieces of Her, and is that moving on also?
It is. So, they were 3 days away from principal photography when the pandemic hit,
Uh,
and they were going to do it in Vancouver, but now, Vancouver looks a lot different than Georgia in the winter, mostly because there's snow everywhere. So
yeah.
they're going to film it in Australia, which is good
Oh,
because Toni Collette is
she's
Australian
from
and a
there.
lot of the cast is Australian. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, great. I also want to mention again before we leave. I could talk to you forever and ever, but you are really a big supporter of libraries.
Absolutely.
That is your thing. And my wife and I, during the years that we, lived in different places, the first thing we always look at before we got to a town, or as soon as we got to it, was the library, because it's such an important part of my likes, my kids' likes, her likes, and you don't hear people talk about libraries though like they did. And I know that's a big thing, though, with you, is support your local libraries.
Well, it is. And I started a charity called Save the Libraries in '08 when the one before last economic downturn.
Right.
And politicians were saying, "Hey, we don't need libraries." But if you looked at the statistics, library usage went up because fewer people could afford books, and they needed places for their kids to go that were no cost. And it's like you said, the library is the backbone of the community. And so I started doing fundraisers. I did one with our friend Mary Kay Andrews, Kitty Stockett, who wrote The Help, Lee Child, young fella. I'm hoping his career is going to take off soon. Charlene
Who?
Harris,
Lee
Tess
Child's
Harris.
career?
Yeah. I wish more people knew about him.
Yeah.
So we did these fundraisers, and then we realized, oh, wait a minute. When a library does a fundraiser, basically the fundraiser pays for itself. So then we said, okay, well, we're going to pay our own way as authors, and we're going to give you a certain amount of money to put the fundraiser on, and then everything that you raise, you can keep. And that was helpful. But then we thought, well, why are we doing this? Let's just give them the money. And so we just give money wherever it's needed. Mostly I support the DeKalb Library Foundation because that's my local library, and the Decatur Library, which we've been into a few times, and we've been there for the Decatur Book Fair. And sometimes we give block grants. We gave one to Ferguson when they were having the protests.
Right.
About Michael Brown, because the library stayed open. The schools were closed, the kids had nowhere to go. The library stayed open. They gave the kids a safe place to be. And, that's what libraries do. So we gave money to that. We started a reading circle in Griffin. We just do what we can do to help. And a lot of people say, okay, well, what's the website so I can donate to Save the Libraries? And I say, donate to your local library.
Right.
Get to know those people. And if you have a really great library system, look at the county next door and donate to them. Because in the long term, that will benefit you. If they have a good library system, the kids are going to read, they're going to stay out of trouble, they're going to do well in school, they'll go to college, they'll get better jobs, and they'll pay higher taxes. So it just all gets returned to the community.
Well, let me tell you, I admire you for your involvement in that. Again, I love libraries and will, encourage people to do what you just said to do. But Karin, I admire you so much and enjoy your book so much. You just don't know. I may be a book critic and whatever, but just for the joy of reading also, I look forward to the next Karin Slaughter book. And I appreciate so much you're taking the time on a Sunday afternoon to talk to me.
Well, it's a pleasure. I'll do anything for you, Jackie.
You're the sweetest. You're the sweetest. Thank you so much. Bye bye now.
Bye-bye.